I want to tell you guys a little bit more about who I am, just because I have this feeling that many of you knew me at a time when I was very lost in my life, which was around high school and a little bit thereafter. But I'd like to just give some context. I would not be surprised if many of you have been hurt by me, or if I've wronged many of you. And I don't want to give a public apology, just because I feel like that's sort of insincere and it doesn't do justice to the people who might actually deserve a personal apology from me. But I do want to just give a brief give you some context as to who I am today and why I was the way that I was back then. So I remember, I think I was in middle school when I first started to struggle with social anxiety. And I'm sure some of you know what that is, but to me, what happened was there were certain aspects of my personality that didn't really jive with what I thought was the ideal human. And just for an example, like I remember I would go, like, I remember trying to give someone a high five, and something that happens to me is that when I get nervous, my hands start to sweat a lot. And so people would say, like, why are your hands so sweaty? And I'd be like, I don't know why they're so sweaty. I wouldn't say that, but like, that's how I would feel. I would sort of feel like, well, I don't know, why are they so sweaty? And at the time I didn't realize what I was going through, and looking back, I think I had people to talk to about that. I just didn't really open up about it. And of course there was a few other examples, but what would happen is, whenever I would go into a social situation, I would be so fearful that people would judge me and think negatively of me. And so when I was in 8th grade, I was introduced to alcohol, and that was like, it felt a bit like a burden was lifted off my shoulders, because I could finally be myself. I could sort of, loosen up a bit. And whenever I was drunk, I was really accepted by my friends. At least it appeared that way. Like, they would laugh at me, and many times I'd be the life of the party, which was, deep down, that was definitely something that I longed for. But so yeah, I started drinking a lot, and the thing is, it never actually helped me with my social anxiety, because whenever I was sober, all of my fears and insecurities would come back to the surface. So, like, in high school, I just, like, when I would walk through the hallways, I would kind of just act out and try to gather attention in ways, sort of obnoxious ways, as a way of coping with my, like, lack of, or just my social insecurities. So yeah, the sophomore year, junior year, really started drinking a lot, and it just went down a really destructive, self-destructive path. And looking back, I was very selfish, and didn't have any regard for my neighbor or my family. So eventually, I think I was about a sophomore. Maybe it's hard for me to tell exactly at the time, but my oldest brother shared he had made some drastic changes in his life, and he started sharing the gospel with me. And he would just share passages of scripture, and it would be like, whoa, that is intense and it makes sense to me. And so like growing up, I had this this conviction of God and Jesus, but I just didn't have that sort of practice or any sense of commitment to him. So when my brother shared the gospel, and so he really plucked at my heart during that time, and but I was still so steeped in my sin that like I didn't I still didn't I still wanted to live my way, and I wanted to live in sin. But eventually, I think I was a freshman in college when I just remember it was a night after drinking, and I realized that like I wanted to stop drinking, and I had wanted to for so long, but I just didn't know how to. I didn't have any sense of value in myself or self-esteem, and I didn't have any sense of community that would that I felt sort of accepted for who I fully was. But I reached out to a church that I had been involved in a little bit in high school, and got together with someone and just talked about everything I just shared, my whole story. And I really, at that point, like really felt the weight of my sin. And I had felt like I really hurt my parents, and I could just see, the pain that I was causing them. So I just shared that with him and with this man, and that night I decided to get baptized, and so that was about 4 years ago now. And since then, that to me, like my baptism was more than just me sort of dunking in water. It was kind of me saying I'm ready to commit my life to Jesus. And so I did, and I feel like I'm nervous. I don't know why, but yes, I committed my life to Jesus 4 years ago. So that was huge, and that was such a big change, and like that was the point where I really started to make changes in my life. But it wasn't like a snap of the finger sort of magic trick where I did away with sin right there on the spot. It was more like very gradual, and I had phases where I was backsliding, and especially initially really struggled to overcome. I still had some social anxiety, and I still would party, still made poor sexual decisions at that time. But yeah, like I started to get more of a fuller sense of who Jesus is, and the fact that he loves me, and he humbled himself for me. And just that's just a glimpse of the gospel, but like that, getting just even a glimpse of it was so life-giving for me. So I wanted to just give that as just to let you know sort of a bit of my story. I still struggle with sin. I still struggle with drinking sometimes, but I have my doubts, and I have my struggles, but I am a completely different person today than I was 4 years ago, and I really want to get to know you all as much as I can. So yeah, God bless you. And if you have questions, or just want to talk about anything, please reach out.